Hello everyone and welcome back to our beginner lecture series. In this shape we are going to continue to talk about some basic middle game shapes. Alright, so here we have several examples. It's like a big game has been played out, but there's many things to think about on this board. So we're going to tackle these situations one by one. For starters, we're going to focus on the bottom left corner. In the bottom left corner, you can see that this black group has escaped, but these three black stones are not safe yet. If white simply plays here, then you see these three black stones are cut off and have no way to escape and connect to these black stones. It's very dangerous for black. Therefore, black actually needs to capture this white stone. This white stone is actually called a cutting stone. It is a stone or group of stones that are disconnecting your groups. Cutting stones are very important to capture or save if they're yours, because whichever one gets it, if these cutting stones run out, then you can see that the situation becomes very dangerous for black. So for white, it's very good to save this cutting stone, because if the black groups are disconnected, white's going to have a very big advantage in this area. However, if black gets it, then black's alive, black's okay, and black destroys the points in this area. So, cutting stones are important to capture and worth spending a move to save if you're cutting off your opponent. However, a cutting stone that is cutting two living groups are not worth saving. Only cutting stones that are cutting off groups that are not alive yet are worth saving. In this case, these three black stones were not alive, they're not safe, they can't really escape, so capturing the cutting stone is very important here. You could probably value this move at like 20 or 30 points even. It's very big. So, capture the cutting stone is important. Alright, now let's look at the bottom right corner. Here we're going to actually continue looking at cuts. In this case, our opponent has this little cut. This cut is worth playing because if I play here and you run, I can now turn and push this stone towards the edge. It's the same concept that we learned last time. Push it towards the edge, and these two white stones are actually going to die. That is because they have absolutely no way out. They can try running this way, he can try to cut me back, he can try to capture me, but there's no way for him to actually do anything to me. White just doesn't have enough liberties, and he's stuck against the edge. So, push towards the edge. So here, white should have protected his cut. But here, black was able to cut, and then push this stone towards the edge. If white saves this stone, then you simply capture. So this cut actually works for black and is a very strong and powerful move. Alright, here, actually black has a cut. We have our own cut. So I'm going to show you that if you have the cut, then you should fix it. Because this is a similar shape to this one. In this case, if I played something else, and our opponent plays here, and I try to run, well then our opponent can actually do the exact same thing. Sorry. And then push the stones towards the edge and kill the two black stones. Now you can see these two black stones have been cut off, they're stuck against the edge, so they're going to die, and all the black stones have been cut apart, and it's a big disaster for black. So connecting this cutting point is very, very important. So if you have a cut, make sure you protect it. If your opponent has a cut, try to see if you can cut and actually deal some damage. But there's a warning here. Cuts are dangerous, but they're also difficult to read. This means not every cut will work, but cuts, if they work, are very deadly and very dangerous. So if you have a cut and you think that your opponent can do something, it's probably worth fixing. And if your opponent has a cut and you think you can do something, then try it. But if you can't do anything, then it is actually a negative value to play a cut, because a cutting stone that dies is just going to give your opponent points. So cuts are very powerful, but you must be cautious before leaping into a cut. For example, what if I cut here and then I played something like this? Well, now you can see I actually helped my opponent gain this area. So this black stone actually adds to my opponent's points. because this stone will die and reduce my points at the end. Or it'll die and I just won't have that stone as a point, depending on the rule set you are using. So in this case, it's actually worse to play this cut than it is to simply just play here and reduce. However, if we play the cut correctly here, then we get lots of points. So, cuts are very powerful, but be cautious. Fix the cut if it's yours, and try to read. Think in your head if the cut works. If it does, great, do it. It's a very strong idea, very strong move. But if it doesn't, then you're probably going to give your opponent points. So make sure you look before you leap. Check the cut. But cuts are very important for beginners because that's the most commonly found mistake in beginner level play, is leaving cuts laying around. Cuts are strong, and I want you to really focus on the cuts in your own games. Alright, now we're going to look at this little attachment idea. When stones are attached to each other, the first one to hane will actually have an advantage. Hane is to bend around your opponent, like so. So of course our opponent might cut here, but then we're going to get the Ataris, right? So our opponent decides to run first. In this case, once our opponent runs, now we have a cut we should fix. So, first hane, then fix. Hane, and then fix. Therefore, our opponent is stuck on the inside, we're on the outside, we're getting the influence, and it's good for us. Hane, and then fix your cut. Hane, and then fix your cut. That's what I want you to just drill into your head for this shape. If it's stones touching each other, hane, and then fix. Fix the cut. Fix the cut. Cuts are important. If your opponent does it, for example, if our opponent does it, you can see that our opponent's actually going to have the advantage in this area because our opponent gets the influence. Our opponent got the strong shape, and we're the ones stuck on the edge. So whoever plays this hane and then fixes the cut first will have the advantage on this side of the board. Alright, and our last shape is actually going to be when you're weak and you can't get a base, run away. And to run, you jump. Jump to run. That's our concept here. Jump to run. Because if you simply run one at a time, your opponent's eventually going to be able to surround you. One at a time is not fast enough to run away, to move across the board. It's just too slow. It's really solid, but it's just too slow. It's not fast enough. If you're running, you don't want to walk to get away from someone with a knife, right? You don't want to walk away from a dangerous situation. You want to run. You want to get out fast. Therefore, a jump is the better way to do that. Some players might try to cut through the 1-point jump with this little wedge move, but this one is actually very easy to deal with. In this case, I can play this side and simply connect, sacrifice one stone, and kill the corner. And now white lost his entire corner. Another idea is actually to play on this side. Once again, sacrifice the stone, and now white loses the whole side. The reason I show both of these is because some situations you can only block one side or the other. But by sacrificing one stone, normally you can get very good shape, and then your opponent can't attack you anymore. If anything, your opponent's stones will actually be damaged. So it's not good to jump a 1-point jump unless you're very thick. Example of that is if I had this, and now I can jump because I'm thick on both sides. Can't jump in between two walls. However, the majority of situations, like 80% of situations, the jump will be okay. If your opponent gets super thick on both sides, then you have to worry. But otherwise, jump to run. Jump to run is the most common shape to run away when you can't make a base. Alright, I hope you guys enjoyed this lesson. I hope you guys found the shapes helpful, and hopefully you can apply them in your games. Watch the video as many times as necessary to make sure you fully understand the concepts and completely remember these shapes, because these shapes are very common shapes you'll find in your games. As always, thanks for watching, and I'll see you guys in the next video.